You're very good. You're a better storyteller. Okay, so she's gonna tell in the presentation. But just thinking about like Luna Matatas, when I met her, I was just like, oh my God, I am in love. And we have just been very, very close ever since. We run a race and kink discussion series that happened during the pandemic. We do kinky tapas together, which is, you know, for the kinky folks out there, want to learn some skills and things. And just a wonderful and fabulous educator. I am so proud to know her. I'm so proud to be in partnership and collaboration with her. And I'm so proud to bring you here to Sex Down South once again, because you were only here in, 2000? Yeah, 2016, 17 or something like that? Yeah. So I'm just really excited to have you here. So thank you so much. Untamed and Reclaimed, I love it. So let's talk about body love as resistance. So the floor is yours.
All right, so we teased you with our love story, but I will get there. Oh my God, look at all of you beautiful people. Are you feeling beautiful? Yes. I came to Sex Down South in 2016. And at that time, I had no idea what was happening. I met this strange bald woman in Toronto. She was like, come to Atlanta. I was like, okay. And I was so impressed with how much love there was and joy. There was so much joy in this space, and it has just grown, right? The Sex Down South team is bringing you joy, and the most beautiful part of it was that all of our joy was different. So there were so many different intersections. It's not as if it was just easy and fluffy and rainbows. We all have different needs, we had different desires, but we managed to center joy. So we're gonna do that again, right? Joy? Hey, amazing. I get the joy of talking with you about what it means to untame and reclaim, right? So I basically get to challenge all of the ideas that have been put upon us through systems like white supremacy and patriarchy. So fuck that shit, right? Yeah, okay. So just so we're in agreement. Someone in the back is like, yay, patriarchy. I think that body love is a form of resistance, right? Yes. We're resisting.
Yes.
Too far away from us, I think. Oh no, I did something. Brandon, help me. You can just enjoy me and my pasties for now. Thank you. So I get to tell you a little bit about me, and then we're going to get into our love story, just as a teaser. So I have about 18 years of teaching sexual health and wellness. I started in public health, so talking, like many of us, right? Talking about condoms and sexually transmitted infections. I was working in Eastern and Southern Africa, thank you so much. And I'm based in Toronto, Canada. And so I got to do stuff, thank you, Canada. Is that you?
No, it's the other one.
I'm down in the front, okay. And no matter where I was having these conversations, whether it was in a village or a suburb or a big city, people wanted to know about pleasure, right? They wanted to be able to facilitate their wellness and their safety through pleasure. They want to know how to do the thing. Right? They want to know how to do the sex. So I started teaching at a feminist sex store in Toronto called Good For Her. Right? Good For Her is all these feminist sex stores are just pioneers in our communities, right? Filling that vacuum of sex education, safe space, LGBT communities. And I teach about 30 different topics, but the first topic that I taught was how to have a threesome.
Woo!
Yeah. And that still is one of those popular topics. So I also really love teaching from a perspective of helping people have better communication, more creativity, and more compassion for themselves. So that's the basis of all these 30 topics. You want to pee on someone, you're also going to have those 3 characteristics, right? I love teaching sexual confidence, kink, and navigating body shame. These things are very personal for me, but also they're about how we build community, how we actually start to challenge a lot of the things that get in the way of our pleasure. I'm the creator of Peg the Patriarchy. The anniversary of Dior and Cara Delevingne, whatever. who stole my shit.
Yeah.
It's coming up this month. So
Yeah.
thank you to all of you who supported me in that and you were calling out. I think that was so beautiful to see community show up in that way.
Yes.
I also created Meditate, Medicate, Masturbate for cannabis and pleasure, and I'm holding my latest creation in here, which is Bubbles. Bubbles is my pegging dildo that I created with these engineering students. They came to me, they were like, Luna, can we make a dildo together? I was like, yes, yes we can. Can you make it so that anal beads and a dildo had a baby? And that's what we
That's what we do!
Oh no, am I doing it again? Do I have to be like, maybe I have to do it over here. Good? Oh. Oh, thanks. Okay. So here's our love story. I'm wearing the same dress. It's my favorite dress. Thank you. And then our Bitmoji. Right there. Marla's is more athletic than mine. So Marla came to Toronto Pride, and Toronto Pride brings in like 1 million people into the city. So it's actually really kismet that we found each other. Partly your bald head and partly my big rainbow tutu brought us together. And Marla was standing there with these sparkly eyes, this like glowy, and like by herself. And I thought, this person is bold. And she had the Sex Down South shirt. All I saw actually was Sex and South. And I was like, cool. Whatever. And she invited me to come to Sex Down South, and of course I said yes. Like we hung out at a sex club together, so we already had broken all the bonds, right?
teaching.
I was teaching, yeah. I was teaching pegging. Surprise, surprise. And since then, we've been able to create a lot of the things Marla talked about, but what I think was so beautiful was that Marla was also someone who opened me up to the beautiful community of you. Right? So many of us feel isolated in our work. We feel so isolated in being able to create connections that are meaningful on a beautiful, intimate level and on a professional level. So if you have questions about how you do what we do, feel free to come and talk to me, come talk to Marla. We're happy to share with you. We're happy to mentor as well. Or are you gonna be my like person? Awesome, thank you. Oh my God. Even being friends with Jess, I still am like, oh yeah, my friend Dr. Jess. Dr. Jess is cooking for me. So our theme today is body love, right? Body love is our conference theme. So why body love? You can see up here I put in body positivity, body neutrality, body acceptance, radical body love. I think that you get to choose whatever tools work for you. Different tools are going to work at different times. Different tools are going to work in different relationships as you build a better relationship to your body. Body positivity kind of came out of second wave feminism. And so it was actually first centered as a fat acceptance movement. And then that got like whitewashed, right? So we lost that. And then we also know that there's so much out there around the other categories of body neutrality, body acceptance, radical body love. Sonia Renee Taylor does a lot around radical body love. We often don't see these because the patriarchy is literally the algorithm, right? Yeah. So a lot of times we're not able to get the kinds of amazing tools that are out there, even though they exist in our communities. So sometimes we have to go searching. We gotta look a little bit. We gotta find out what's gonna be most meaningful for us at what time. I actually don't think any of these compete. I don't think that they are in competition with each other. Sometimes body neutrality works for me on a Tuesday, and then maybe radical body love on a Saturday. Who knows, right? It just depends on where my relationship is, what's happening in those relationships, and how I feel about myself. Oh, you can go, thank you. So why is it so hard? Why is it so hard for us to get into body love, to love these bodies? I really grew up with a lot of body negativity. And I remember the first time that I realized that my appearance mattered way more than who I was. I was 9, and I had a big long like black braid all the way down and a pink headband and a mustard yellow matching jumpsuit, you know, things. And and I was at some family gathering, and I went to the bathroom, came back out, and they were talking about my body. They were talking about my belly, and they were saying, I think it was my grandma was saying, you know, is she gonna lose that weight? Like, she'd be so cute if she didn't have that belly. The worst part was that nobody defended me. Nobody stood up for me. My parents agreed. They affirmed and assured her that, yeah, it's baby weight, she'll lose it. So we know that so many children, babies, are getting these messages so early, right? And we're now doing the breaking of all of that ancestral trauma. We're breaking all of those chains. We're reclaiming things. We're unlearning things. But it's a process. My healing, all of my work is not linear. It's so messy. It's so messy that some days I think I'm transgressing. But it's not. It's that we're actually going deeper and we're learning about other things that we need to uproot so that we can decolonize the way that we look at our bodies and the way that we take up space in our bodies. Does that sound good? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to read out some of these, and if there's more that are on here, I'd love to hear from you. Sexual violence, disordered eating, gender-based violence, hatred of our bodies. I put up a strong word like hatred because I definitely have felt that. Fragmented sense of self. How many of you have ever stood in front of the mirror and you're like, yeah, I look cute except for, right? Yeah, for me it's always been my belly. I've always been like, oh yeah, so this outfit is cute, but I would change if my belly was visible. So we learn to see ourselves as cuts of meat, right? So disenfranchised from our wholeness, from our humanity. Grief, shame, ancestral trauma, all the violence that our ancestors have had to have gone through. Fear of healing and personal growth. How many people want to challenge their relationship with their body, but it's scary? Yeah, absolutely. For me too. I think that for myself, I felt a lot of the fear was in letting go of the promised rewards. So if I could just get closer to white supremacy and patriarchy's idea of what a good body would be, then I'll get love, I'll get success, I'll have relationships, I'll be treated better in the world. And so it's really hard to let go of those promised rewards. The reality is that 99% of us don't look like what patriarchy and white supremacy says is a good, respectable, appropriate body.
Yeah.
It sets us up to fail. Chronic illnesses, loss of voice, power, authority. How many of you find it hard to talk about your needs? Yeah, okay, good. Me too, I start crying when I talk about my needs. Yeah, okay, see some nodding, good. I'm in good company. So many of us, our needs have never been affirmed, and so, or denied. We've asked for something and not had access to it. Loss of voice, did I read that one? Yeah. Continued violence through transphobia, homophobia, racism, ableism, poverty, and misogyny. So this violence doesn't stop when we decide to take up more space, when we decide to offer ourselves more compassion, more love. It still exists. What I want to give you is tools and inspiration so that you don't have to go to bed with it every day. It'll be out there, it'll be in our faces, but I want to develop peace inside this body so that I have that home all the time. If you're like me and you struggle with belly stuff too, we have a belly peace workshop coming up as well that's going to focus on just tummies. Okay, thanks, Jen.
I have
Dr.
one.
Jess.
Can we add?
A single? This is a single? Yes, totally. Yeah.
I would just add fat phobia and anti-fatness to that
Yes.
as well. I think that that's within white supremacy because it's rooted in racism most of the time. But
Absolutely.
anti-fatness is definitely something that stands in our way.
Absolutely, and it's not a protected class under human rights, right? Absolutely, yeah.
I would add over-sexualization, especially from like your family members.
Ooh, yes. Over-sexualization from family members, especially from family members, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a cultural thing too, because I get like the white supremacy thing, but also in the black community, if your booty's not big enough, or, you know, it's just like you're just never enough.
And never enough, exactly. A constant chronic feeling of not being good enough. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to add societal and popular culture programming.
Yes, yes. Societal and popular culture programming. Thank you. Yeah, these are excellent. Any more you want to add?
We got one over here.
Yeah. Ageism. Yes, good one. Where's, did you hear somewhere? Yeah, go for it.
There's a whole layer of capitalism in this too.
Absolutely.
We love to create anything where we're lacking and then sell us products to people.
Absolutely. Every time you don't like your body, some rich old white man gets richer. Yeah.
And I just wanted to add that those promised rewards aren't actually promised. So even if you do look like all the things you're
Yep.
saying,
Yes.
you're still not gonna get that shit. because
Exactly.
Capitalism and all the other forms of.
It's all a big fat lie. So we're saying here that even the promised rewards you don't actually get them. And so they're just kind of dangled like a carrot in front of you. Yeah.
I would say the medical industrial complex, because they're always trying to tell us that our fat bodies are unhealthy.
Absolutely, absolutely, and making so much money off of that, right? Diet industry is like a $9 billion industry. It is the most lucrative failed industry, has a 99% failure rate. Yeah, yeah.
Other big changes kind of going off of like societal things is like in postpartum after having children and the major changes your bodies go through.
Absolutely, postpartum, menopause, anytime your body is changing, we have to come into relationship with that body again. And if we don't see any affirmation of that these bodies are good bodies, these bodies are deserving of love and compassion, it's even harder, right? Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to go back to the promised rewards because I think even that, let's say that you are classically attractive, you get the promised reward of money and love or whatever, but also friendships are really difficult because lots of times you were like, are you just waiting around because you're hopeful that you're going to be able to fuck me? Or, you know, just the ability to pump gas while being left the fuck alone goes away. And that's kind of something too that with the really binary view that I feel like we've taken, all bodies are good bodies, but we don't actually talk about the bodies that are talked about as good and kind of how that is a cost, and it does make it difficult to love the body that you're in.
Yep.
When-
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That, can I summarize? Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so pretty much that if you even have conventional attractiveness or beauty, that there's still harassment that comes with that, there's still objectification. All of our bodies are objectified under capitalism, right? And patriarchy depends on our obedience. We have to be obedient to these standards. So if I'm not trying to lose weight, I'm being disobedient, right? All right, sorry, one more. Yeah.
Weight stigma in the medical world, like your problems are because you're fat,
Oh, yeah.
just overlooking everything else.
Yeah, it's like the medical world just sings one song, you're fat, go home. Right? Yeah. Okay, yes, yeah.
I want to say like people with chronic or like chronic STIs. I don't know if the stigma with STIs. So I brought it in my shirt.
Ooh, what does it say on the back? Ooh, ask me about my herpes. Oh, I love that shirt. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. There's stigma for sexually transmitted infections. There's stigma for even all kinds of other health issues. And so we make assumptions about people's bodies based on their ability, right? We desexualize a lot of bodies based on ability. Was there one more over there? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the like religious idea of the body being a place of sin and of shame, that particular one too.
Oh yeah, I grew up Catholic. Now I eat pussy like a champ. Absolutely, our cultural shame, our religious shame, all of these are also tools that fit into these systems really conveniently, right? All right, thank you so much. Those were amazing. So what does body hatred do? Like, what happens if we don't like our bodies? Is it just kind of like I don't feel good about myself? It's so much more than that. It becomes connected to our sense of self, our sense of self-worth, our value, how we share and see other people, our mutual giving and receiving. So I put some up here. Feeling small. Has anyone tried to like make themselves smaller, either physically, emotionally, mentally? We want to take up less space. Yeah, and sometimes it's a safety issue, right? We think that if we just can blend in, maybe we're not going to attract that kind of negativity or violence that comes against bodies. Fearful, on the defensive, self-censoring, overcompensating, self-labeling, feeling undeserving. It's hard to trust yourself when you don't trust the body that you're in. Hard to trust others. Does someone actually like me? Are they using me? Are they objectifying me? Do they want something from me? Branding ourselves. This one was big for me. I wanted to brand myself as really low maintenance, easygoing, so that I wouldn't take up any space. I wouldn't be a burden to somebody, as almost an apology for being in a body that people don't like, right? Preoccupied. Oh my God. The amount of time I've spent dieting or using exercise as punishment. I resent I can eyeball food and know how many calories are in it. Self-loathing and tired. It's exhausting not liking your body, right? It's exhausting not feeling compassion for your body. So when we talk about body love, it's about nourishment, care, and self-compassion. It doesn't mean that you have to feel cute all the time, but it's very much about showing up as a friend to this body. I've been an enemy to my body for so many years, so many years. Is there anything else we want to add to the body hatred? What else do you think that it does? It's a pretty heavy list, yeah. Yeah, go for it.
When you don't have a good relationship with self, it really harms your relationship with others, romantic partners, with family, with friends. And so when you do tend to tap into your power, you tend to shit on the other people that have less power than you. And then when you feel like you have less power and you should be deserving, or you should be grateful rather for these relationships that are shitty towards you, it can really keep you in these really harmful, abusive dynamics.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
I think there are some ways in which it's almost like a cost of admission for certain social communities where like you have to hate your body because everybody's going to bring up that body discussion of like, oh, if only I could lose 10 pounds. Oh, I know, me too. I need to lose this weight too.
Yes.
That there's this way where if you don't want to play that game, you don't get to have acceptance to that circle.
Oh my gosh, how many of you work in an office where these yeah. You know, where like somebody's eating boiled eggs and cucumbers because they're going to Cuba or something. Like, yeah, if I can't have the bagel, I'm going to be good, right? So we assign worth to good foods or bad foods and the behavior associated with those foods. Yeah.
Self-harm.
Self-harm, absolutely. Yeah. Back there?
You know, they talk about trying to become small. I would say that sometimes in the effort to hide, we actually become bigger. Because we want to, the bigger we become, we think the less that people will look at us. And I would also say that there have been times that I have thought, and I've known people that have thought that, you know, people won't look at me when I'm big, and I think that some of that's our own perception because we're looking down and we think, oh, well, people won't look at us, but it's because we think that we're not worthy of being looked at. And then when we start to lose weight or we get a little bit better, we're like, well, where were you before? And maybe it was just that we weren't looking up and looking people in the eye because we didn't think we were worthy. So
Absolutely.
I think it's such a sad place for us to be in sometimes.
Yeah, super sad, yeah. And so many times, we might hate our body, but we also just hate the way that we're treated, right? We hate the way that people perceive us, the assumptions that they make about us, the privileges that we don't have access to. Yeah.
A disconnection to pleasure.
A disconnection to pleasure.
To our own pleasure or even what we know we want.
Yes, yes, absolutely. These are amazing, thank you. Yeah.
A disconnection and erasure of violence against us that like we either deserved it or it didn't happen because we were told we were undesirable, but these things are still happening to us, but that can't be real because we're not desirable. So this like loop of false information.
Yes, yes, yeah, and completely obliterating your reality, like what's happening for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also what body hatred does to others is that we limit our romantic, sexual, friendships, partnerships, because we're hyper aware of how the optics look. And then as well, adding colorism, texturism, desirability, politics, all of that starts to project onto other people. So that's why we have these running conversations on social media about, you know, who's light skinned, who's dark skinned, or whatever their phenotypic features look like. But we're like, it's all eugenics.
Yeah.
We don't talk about this at all. Let's hopefully move past it. We can't. That's the white supremacist, you know, cloud.
Yeah, it's still there. It's still guiding everything, scripting everything.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it makes you look great to get
It makes you afraid of rejection because it affirms how you feel about your body. So if someone says something to you that's the worst thing that you think about yourself, it becomes so much realer. If you told me that I wasn't smart or I wasn't a good speaker, I'd be like, whatever. But if you were like, oh, you're ugly, something in me still believes that. So that belief system still exists. And I used to let that belief system drive the bus. Right? And now I've learned skills, which I'm going to share with you, to be able to get curious and find compassion for that part that wants to come up and protect me. That part wants to protect me from exactly those thoughts. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for all of that. What does it mean to untame? So all of these systems that you mentioned, all of these experiences, they rely on obedience. They rely on us figuring out what to do and doing those things. And there are often consequences to not being obedient. So when you tell your doctor, actually, no, it's not about my weight, I don't want to whatever, I'm not interested in losing weight, that becomes a whole battle on such a vulnerable ground, right? So it takes a lot of courage that I think people don't often see. This is not an intellectual exercise. This is not, you get to think better and then be better. This is about really going into the sense of feelings, the sense of how we actually move through our world with all of these rules that are often unwritten. I didn't know a lot of these rules weren't real. I just thought that that's what you do. My mom taught me very early on that this part of your arm is not good. So I owned like 45 cardigans, you know, like in every color. And it was only until I started experimenting. I was like, okay, what's the worst that's gonna happen if I go out and I'm actually cooler and someone doesn't like my body, someone doesn't like my arms. And so no one really said anything, but I had to walk through with all of that fear. During the pandemic, I stopped wearing very supportive bras. So I went down to like floppy bras. Undergarments. I didn't realize that bras are shapewear. I just thought it was a thing, right? We've got dress codes in offices that are mandating all of these kinds of things. So it's all normalized within our institutions. Everything that we do is guided by the same principles. So we want to look into what narratives no longer serve us. You all talked about pleasure, about your bodies, your self-worth. What narratives are getting in the way of that? What stories are we telling? It's not your fault that you learn these narratives. It's almost impossible to not learn these narratives. But it is our responsibility to care for the parts of ourselves that have been harmed by these narratives. It's our responsibility to transform in community for all of these narratives. So we start telling new stories, better stories. What possibilities for pleasure are we denying ourselves? Someone mentioned that, yeah. I used to think that I couldn't be on top because I was like, what a horrible angle. I just thought about looking cute. I just wanted to look like something because we're taught that our appearance is the most important thing about us. My appearance is the least interesting thing about me. Your appearance is never going to be static. Is anyone here not aging? J-Lo here. You're not aging. Brandon's not aging. All right. Go sit in the back, Brandon. What are we afraid we'll lose if we start to untame? So I was very uncomfortable walking out with not like an underwire tight bra going out just to like 5 feet from my apartment. I thought something terrible would happen. And so I had to do a lot of self-talk before and after. I had to celebrate with my friend. I called my bestie who also has big boobs. And I was like, guess what I did? So it becomes very much something that starts to come to light as we start to rebel in these very tiny ways. Super tiny ways. So you can do some of that at the conference, right? We're in a super supportive place. If there's something you wanted to do. What's that, sorry? What's happening? There are kids coming out? What's happening? When we find ourselves in places like this, take advantage, right? I didn't actually set out to do body love work. I set out to do sex education work. And people kept telling me and coming up to me and saying things about my dresses or my belly or something. And I was like, huh. People are really inspired that I'm just existing and doing something I'm passionate about. And I thought that was incredible. I thought that was such a beautiful connection to have with somebody. That me existing in my authentic self is inspo for somebody else. You just get to be you, and we inspire each other, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. We need a round of applause for that. I also had to really find people that were inspirational for me. So I went to Temptress's workshop in Washington one year when I was still working my corporate job. I was like, I'm gonna take these 4 days and just go to Washington and learn sensual movement. Game changer.
Yes.
Game changer.
Yes.
Midori taught me how to do it like a dom. That power I never had. I wanted to identify as a people pleaser and a nice person and someone who was easygoing. Now I want to be a bossy asshole. In a consensual way. Dirty Lola. Where's Dirty Lola? Oh, yes. Okay, yes. So Dirty Lola, I just saw online and I was like, I need to meet this person. Also went to New York. We had tater tots. Yeah, you had the chili ones. I couldn't. I was having anal. So, but I saw this person that was so happy and so fun and doing all these amazing things in the sexiest outfits. I didn't even know I could look at those kinds of outfits. I had no idea that what I liked. I had no idea what an authentic expression would be for me. Afrosexology. I bought their Soul Pleasure. It's so good. I had no idea what I was missing out on for pleasure because I was so hyper-focused on other people's needs. I wanted the transaction to be, okay, you tolerate me, and then I'll do all these things for you. There are so many inspirational people that we can learn from, that we get humbled by, that we get inspired by. And I want you to know that even if you're not doing something like Midori or Dirty Lola or whoever, you are still inspo by being a kind, compassionate person to yourself.
Yes.
Right? When you watch people do that for themselves, how beautiful is that? Yeah, all right. Right, good, thank you. Thank you for receiving it. Dr. Jess, would you mind? Thank you. This is another way that I started to get into untaming. Prioritizing play over performance. Who likes to play? I play for people. All of you being, okay. So what does it feel like to enjoy something without worrying what you look like? If I was up here, even 2016, if I was up here, I'd be wearing Spanx underneath. So I would be sweating profusely because I'd be like a sausage encasing. I would worry about sweating, even though sweating is just a natural thing that bodies do, right? So what would it look like to have fun? I went to a boxing class, and there was this young person there, probably early 20s, and we were talking about New York, and she said, you know, I would love to go, but I need to lose 100 pounds. I was like, oh my God. Wait, do I need to lose 100 pounds to go to New York? Is this a thing I missed out on? But to see the pain of this person having this big dream about something exciting and nourishing and fun, and thinking that their body wasn't good enough to go and do it. And just by the size, had nothing to do with anything else other than size. So think about all the times that you haven't done something or felt playful or actually got into the feeling of something because we're worried about performance. This is natural. I think even the most confident people, we all get into places where performance, we feel like it's expected of us, we feel like it'll protect us in a way. What is fun to me that I'm withholding from myself? I had a relationship with bikinis. There was no relationship with the bikini, but I bought them all, and then I would just wear them in the house. So I really had a period of time also, I have psoriasis, so I have tons of scars on my body. We know flawless skin is another thing that our beauty standards set out for us. And I spent about 7 years wearing t-shirts with long t-shirts underneath. My skin never saw the sun, it never felt the wind. And so I was worried about offending other people with my skin. I didn't want them to think I was diseased or contagious, and sometimes people do. Sometimes people move away from me. And so it was really helpful to start to ground myself in that I'm not performing for these people. I don't know them. You think I'm contagious, then move away from me. That's okay. That's you. I didn't get to that place until I started to feel more in this body, until I started to go for very small walks and actually pay attention to how my body moves. I have a chronic illness with my back, so that also makes it more difficult to be able to do certain things, and it changes depending on different times or what's going on with my body. So there's sometimes frustration or resentment with our bodies. That can coexist with compassion, right? What ideas of appropriateness or respectability am I not allowing myself? Joy of jiggling.
Yes.
Should we jiggle? Yes! Okay, let's jiggle. You can jiggle however you want. You can stand up, you can sit in your chair, you can do a little whatever, you can shake your shoulders, you can do whatever. Oh, no, I told you jiggling. Of course, I expected nothing less. Thank you for jiggling with me. The joy of jiggling, I mean, it's a fun thing to do. It brings back that kind of childlike playfulness. It also has an important impact on your nervous system. When we shake out stress, it's a somatic kind of process, so jiggle whenever you feel like it. You get stressed, you get nervous throughout the conference, I'll see you jiggling in the corner, I'll come over and jiggle with you. Right. Fucking like a goddess. Yes. So I decided to start fucking like a goddess.
Yes.
Right? I just went the complete other way from I have no needs to I have all the needs. So I wanted to take up space with my needs and desires, which means that I had to learn to communicate them. I had to even discover what they were. I had subscribed to so many heteronormative ideas of sexuality, of sex. Even though I was queer, I was still practicing in a way that centered certain ideas. Prioritizing my own pleasure often felt selfish. It felt like I felt guilty about it, right? But over time and over practice and having partners that were affirming of that pleasure, finding pleasure in non-sexual ways was also very affirming. Unhitching from the idea that I have to be small, you can replace it with whatever your thing is, in order to be liked or desired. That the state that you are in right now is likable and desirable. That there's a possibility that someone finds you attractive or likes you or wants to be with you, even if you don't think that that's true. Right? So we open up pleasure possibilities.
Yes.
Letting go of normalized sexual ideas that actually block my pleasure. Kink for me was game changer. Game changer. Taught me how to communicate, got really good at consent, right? And was able to play with parts of myself that can't safely exist in other places. Right?
Yes.
All right, yes. Applause for kink. A big one for me, exploring my ideas of attraction. Because it's one thing to be like, oh, people don't like me because I don't look like white supremacy ideas. But who am I swiping on? Right? So for a long time, I was swiping on people that were bigger or taller than me because I thought as the feminine person, I had to be the smaller person. So the internalized fat phobia was guiding my attraction to people. I was never swiping on South Asian men because I thought they didn't like me. I thought I was too much. I thought I was not going to be culturally appropriate. I thought that they wanted white women or white men. So I didn't really understand how that had rooted in me and that I was practicing it when I also wanted it to be unrooted from me or disrupted in me. Eat me. It's my new motto, eat me. So sensual feasting became a practice for me that was very much about having a new relationship to food. I was so deep in diet culture, so deep in restriction, so deep in control. Food was just about how little can I consume. Food now for me is about joy, community, nourishment, and medicine. Right? So you get to redefine what food feels like for you. And I did this by actually starting to cook in a way that was mindful. So I got pretty plating, I'm not on my phone eating all the time. I'm going to light a candle for myself, the same way you would be hospitable to somebody that came over for dinner for you, treating yourself in the same way. Yeah. You can go to the next one. All right, so this is new for me, my rage. I put up here an Egyptian feminist, Mona El-Tahawi, right? Mona's always like, fuck the patriarchy. She's always just middle finger up, fuck this. So I love that energy. And she wrote this book called The 7 Necessary Sins of Women and Girls. And one of the sins is basically the sins against patriarchy. So one of the sins is rage. And so she writes that just because white men have used rage as violence doesn't mean that we need to use it that way. That we actually should be teaching young girls how to be rageful. And she points out that even in nature, rage happens, right? Like that fresh forest burn creates new possibility for regeneration. I am angry, I am rageful that my body has been treated this way, that I've learned these messages, and that now I have to spend time unlearning them. I'm mad that it's happening for you. It's happening for most of us, right? So rage is something that I'm starting to reclaim by allowing myself to feel that anger and also allowing myself to feel it move through me. So rage doesn't sit in us. I told my therapist that I was over therapy, that I just want to try being toxic now. I was like, you know what? This is not working for me anymore. And so he's like, let's work with your rage. You go next one, thank you. So I want to leave you here. I am no longer betraying my body for other people's pleasure. Should we say this all together? Yeah. I am no longer betraying my body for other people's pleasure. Shivers. Ooh, ooh. And I want to leave you with the question, what would it look like if you belonged in your pleasure? So belonging in your pleasure is a place free from self-judgment. Right? We want to feel like we belong, we own it, we want to unhitch from that domineering energy and power of patriarchy, white supremacy, all of these systems that don't serve us. And I think there's one more.
Me too.
Good job, Dr. Jess. Let's build loving community. I felt so much love at Sex Down South. The team's always so amazing. I want to give you love. I want us to be in loving community. So stay in touch with me. Stay in touch with each other. Let's do things that we can support and inspire each other, that we can show care and support and compassion, but we also want to show that fierceness, right? Like there's a lot of good energy in here that was very much about uprooting, dismantling, and decolonializing. All right, everyone, I want to thank you so much for allowing me to come up here and rant.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Oh my gosh. Oh, I hope y'all have taken that all in. Whew, right? Can we do a deep breath together? Yeah. All right, let's inhale. Exhale. Yes, let's get centered in our bodies. All right, y'all. Well, that was the educational portion of our day. I mean, you might still get a little educated later on, but you know, this evening we have a lot of fun activities for you. We have so the dinner and meetups. So meetups again in the classrooms right after this. If you want to go to a meetup, and we also have. What else do we have? Cuddle Kink, thank you so much. I know, thank you so much. Look at you. It's fine. Thank you so much. We have Cuddle Kink in touch with Jax and the Naked Trumpeter. That's going to be in the lobby from 7:30 to 9:30. At 8 p.m., we are having the Underwear Comedy Party. That's going to be in Georgia 4, and we have Hedonism and Debauchery, which y'all haven't played that game before. Please make sure you play that game. And then we have the Little Bang. There's going to be music, I think, around 8:30, but it'll be popping around 9:30. And that'll go until 12, and then we will have the Strap-On-a-thon play party with the Sexual Liberation Collective, and that starts again at 9:30, and that goes until Strap-On-a-thon, and then it's open play, y'all. So, all right, have the rest of the evening wonderfully, and go out and party. Yeah.